FM radio.
So are you ready? Yeah.
How it used to be. Something for everyone. 24/7, 365.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
For the health and safety of our guests and team members, we're here for you. That means frequently deep cleaning our stores and wiping down carts and baskets after each use, reserving dedicated shopping hours for our most vulnerable guests, providing masks and gloves to our team members, and offering contactless shopping options through the Target app, like Drive Up and same-day delivery. We are here for you now more than ever, and your health and safety is our highest priority. Learn more at target.com/a-bullseye-view.
New Dunkin' Refreshers. Vibrant fruit flavors like strawberry, dragon fruit, and peach passion fruit. B vitamins and energy from green tea. All under 200 calories. Order ahead via the Dunkin' app for a contactless way to order, pay, and pick up in the drive-thru. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.
Amazon is hiring near you. Earn a competitive wage and start as soon as 7 days. No resume or experience required. Health and safety are a top priority with all of Amazon's roles and sites. Amazon is taking precautions in their buildings to keep people healthy. Go to amazon.com/apply. That's amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey everybody, it is Shelly Williams, host of Single on a Saturday Night. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Single on a Saturday Night TV. That's at Single on a Saturday Night TV. Follow us on Instagram and we'll follow back.
It's the PPC radio show. Hosted by Cynda Williams and co-hosted by Shelly Williams. Music by All Night Long. DJ Joe Storm on the Grown Folks Radio.
PPC, 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 yeah. PPC, PPC, CPC, yeah. Join me so we can grow together. Conversation, get that healing. Let me know what they're missing. Share with your best friend. Tell them come hear this, yeah. Don't you dare miss your blessings. Powerful lessons, true confessions, yeah. PPC, yeah. A powerful tool for you, yeah. PPC, yeah. A powerful tool for you. PPC, yeah. A powerful tool for you, yeah. PPC, yeah. A powerful tool for you, you.
All right, PPC radio show. Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be back this afternoon. For those of you who were with us this morning on the Melanated Morning Show, welcome back. And for those of you just joining us today, hi, how do you do? Shelly Williams, say hello.
Hey everybody, how are you? Good afternoon, good Wednesday afternoon to you. How is your Wednesday going?
Yeah, I always love Wednesdays because I love doing this radio stuff. It's so much fun. I feel like it's my time to connect with people because honestly, most of the time I'm by myself. So it's really nice to see your pretty face, Shelly Shell.
Yes, that's funny. Yeah, I'm by myself too. I'm single, no kids, so by myself most of the time.
Yeah, I'm not single, but my partner, he's very busy. So he doesn't always, he's not home all the time. And when he is home, he's doing his own thing. So we come together at the end of the evening and connect. But all day long, I'm working by myself. So I'm very happy to see you. And that kind of goes along with the theme of that not taking people for granted, that remembering those that bless you and letting them know that they're a blessing to you, because sometimes we just get really comfortable with the people that are every day in our lives and we don't tell them thank you.
That is so true.
It is. And it's embarrassing because, you think you're doing things right. And then you remember, oh my, I haven't said thank you to, you know, somebody. I haven't said thank you to my mailman in a while. I need to get out there and say, hey, I just want to say thank you, you know. So it's stuff like that. That's I mean, I don't get a whole lot in my mail anymore, but it's important to let people know that they're appreciated, you know.
Absolutely. Let me go thank the family.
Hmm. And on that, I think it's a good time to bring in our guest. His name is Dexter O'Neill. He and I met in a very interesting way. We were supposed to be performing together, and we were preparing for that eventuality, and then COVID hit, and everything went out the window. So I was bummed because I really love his music, and was looking forward to that, and I expect we're going to do that eventually, coming up soon as things clear up a little bit. But he's a wonderful person and a phenomenal singer and writer, and he's got a great band, Junkyard. Dexter O'Neill, everyone.
Dexter O'Neil.
Hey.
So where were you going
Hello. How are you?
perform?
How are you?
We were supposed to perform. You could probably tell them better than I, because you were dealing directly with the people. Um, it was the brunch celebrating and giving scholarships to young people,
It was a Lynx
and
tea. Yeah.
right, links. That's what it was. And they were doing jazz as a theme. So we were gonna go in there and do our thing, and then everything ended. And I think they ended up doing something online, but maybe that'll happen some other time. So anyway, what's up, man?
It's all good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to PPC Radio Show. Uh, just so you know what it is, basically, is we believe that anybody and everybody can be an inspiration and encouragement to people from all different walks of life. So we talk about your life, and then let it take us where uh, I feel God takes us. So tell us about your beginnings, because though a lot of people haven't listened to the podcast, and I think it's really interesting. Tell us about how you started singing and stuff.
Okay. So I'm originally born in Faraday, Louisiana. It's the home of Jerry Lee Lewis, Mickey Gilley, and Jimmy Swaggart. That trinity, right? All cousins from the same small town near Natchez, Mississippi. And probably the population about 2,700, but the parish I'm from is probably population about 330, right? So, so all bayou. And so the story goes something similar. My mom and dad looked at each other and heard me singing and said, well, we can't do that. So God must have gave it to him. So they started to take me to church, and the churches in that area, the first church I sang in was a plantation church. And the plantation church is a church that was on plantation so that the slaves didn't have to leave to actually go to another place to worship. So the slave owners would build a church on their property so that the slaves could actually worship there. And so though slavery is abolished and we don't have that anymore, those churches still stand and they're still populated by people. And so the first church that I ever sang in was a plantation church, and that's kind of how I got my start. So church raised, church taught, and then I found my way out into the world and started to do clubs and sing and stuff like that. So that's the beginning. So if you want me to keep going, I can, but I can stop there and breathe.
No, I think that's really now something you said, and I don't know if it's what you meant to say. So I'm going to clarify it. So you said you started singing, and then they took you to church. Was that the order, or were you in church and then they took you? Then they realized you could sing.
Well, I was only 3 years old, so I'm assuming it was around the house. So, okay. But church is a thing that we never was always been a staple. So it wasn't like I started. I've always gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know not all, but most singers from our generation started in the church, of our persuasion, Black folks, we started in the church. Although I'm finding now with the new generations, that's not the case. The Generation
No,
Zs, they didn't grow up in the church.
no,
Mm-mm. So
no, they
their
didn't.
music is coming from another place. It's not coming from that spirit place that it started for us.
No, and so my mother is about to be 75, and she's about to get her PhD in theology. If that gives you any clue of how much
Woo!
time I spent in church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we were there 6 days looking for day number 7, right? So it was just there. So I agree with you that our generation did spend a lot of time in church, and that's not the foundation of what our new generations are being raised into. So I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think about that, Shelly? I mean, because I know you know a lot of young artists.
Yeah, they don't start in the church. What I see now is praise teams anyway. You can't really get on the choir like before. It was not a lot of choirs and all these praise teams. Back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, you could get on, you can get on the choir. I remember being on the choir, and I believe you, I can't sing. And they give you a solo, and you get up there, and they're like, yes, praise the Lord. And I listened to that again. It was like, why y'all say praise the Lord? I can't sing. So there was opportunity back then. Now they want to make these choirs super spectacular, so they put these praise teams together. So I don't think they have the opportunity like they did before.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, I think if not for the church choir, I may not have ever began. I mean, I
Mhm.
did stuff with my uncle and stuff like that, but where I learned how to get up and sing in front of people was in the church. I think my daughter has a beautiful voice, but she didn't have that experience. We moved too many times. Every time I would find a church, it would be at the end of my stay in whatever city I was living in, and we'd be moving. So she never really got into one specific church for a long period of time. And so she didn't have that opportunity to get over that shy thing that she had and that I had. I had that. But my grandparents were like, "Psh, I don't care about nothing about you being shy. You getting up there,
No.
you know? you
Well,
what?" And
Cinda not
anyway,
only Cinda
mhm,
not only singing, but public speaking, right?
mhm,
So you remember the Easter speeches and the
every
Mother's Day
time.
speeches, right?
Mhm.
We all had to do that. We had to do that, right? So we had to learn how to public speak. So you go through, at least our generation went through that crying of not wanting to be in front of people, and I can't name a kid that didn't cry when they had to do a solo. And then by the time they're teenagers, like they've been there their whole life and they've been performing. But that gives you that when you start to go out into the world, then you realize that you're equipped because it's actually easier, right? And you do get that cosign, right? Young lady said, she goes, I knew I wasn't singing, but they were still praising, saying amen, right? You need
Mhm.
you need that confirmation to make it
Mhm.
want to sound like something, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so I agree with you.
It's funny though because I was different. I don't know where this voice came from because it's nothing like the people that were singing around me. You know what I mean? Everybody was doing that. All the
Yeah,
all the
runs and
runs and
risks,
all the
right?
stuff. I never did that. Even though everybody around me was doing that and I loved it, I just it didn't feel like me. So I had a lot of people that said, "You can't sing." I mean, I got that in the church a lot. You can't sing. She can't sing. She can't sing. I don't know
Well,
how I kept the confidence. I guess it's the encouragement of my family. My
sure, it's got to be
family,
internal, right?
because I didn't sound like everybody else. And honestly, my vocals sound more jazz oriented, but I never listened
Sure.
to jazz. I know nothing about jazz. So it was just my family's encouragement that kept me going. We have some people. Chauncey said choirs today are like super groups, full blown production groups, including the musicians, so that it doesn't give the karaoke singer say the opportunity the
Right.
opportunity to thrive and grow and learn.
I would
It's
have never gotten the opportunity now. If
all, mhm.
there's no way I would have gotten that opportunity even to get up there now. And I probably wouldn't have done it. I'd have probably like, oh no. But they actually said, yes, push. And I'm like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the thing is, though, I think they've forgotten is maybe a person won't go on to become some professional singer, but they will have confidence from having that experience. They will have confidence to go out in the world and be open and not so scared because they stood in front of, 50 people and sang a song or did a poem or read a scripture or memorized a scripture from for Easter Sunday.
Right.
It gave them the courage
Right.
to, it gave me the courage. I know that because
It gave me the
honestly,
courage, but you know what? The funny
hmm,
thing is, by the time I started doing television, a while, 20 years ago, I had lost it. So
mhm,
I gave up. Like when they would say, "Hey, we want to book you to host," and I'm like, "No, no, not me. How about I give you somebody else?" So I lost out on a lot of money because I had fear of getting on a stage. Not sure why, not sure where it went, but I did Sunday school pieces. I did all that stuff. But by the time I got to an adult, it was like, no, I can't do it. No, I can't. I'll give you somebody else. I'll give you anybody else but me.
Yeah,
mhm,
send that to. My mother had it. We had to serve, right? So we had to serve in some organization of the church, and I think that's what we're talking about loosely, right? You had to serve in some capacity, and so you could work on the usher board, you could
mhm,
sing, you could be a junior deacon, a junior trustee, right? You could do all these sorts of things, and so a lot of us just started singing because that was the easiest thing, and then those that couldn't sing wanted to go other parts, but we all had to serve in some way, and
right.
having to had to serve in all of those organizations, singing was a lot easier. Singing was a lot easier. So all you had to do was be a part and follow the person next to you.
See,
Um,
yeah, you were lucky. I had to do everything.
Did you
I had
usher?
I sang, I ushered, I was counting the money, I was doing youth ministry, I was dancing in the dance groups, I was doing the acting, I was doing.
right,
Oh, they were gonna make sure I wasn't out in the streets.
That's right.
That it was my social life, and
right, and that's where
it
your friends
wasn't
came
just
from. Yeah,
right. It wasn't just
right,
one day a week. It wasn't just on
right,
Sunday. It was for us every day was Saturday. Saturday and the Saturday was choir practice.
right,
So there was no free days from church
right.
when we were growing up. So it was a social life. It
But do
was
you
our
think it kept
gang.
people? Do you think people kept people really out of the streets though? Didn't you? Did you
Some
really
some people, I think,
think about it?
some people that wanted a party, they would tend to be they'll be there on Sunday folk and they're doing their thing otherwise. And I mean, ain't nothing wrong with it, you know.
Said that my mom had a saying. She said, if you give the devil his time, you're gonna give God his time on Sunday. So she didn't care what I did on Saturday night, but Sunday I was gonna be in church.
Sunday you
Right.
gonna be in that church. You gonna be
I
up
was
on
gonna
that
be
Right.
in that
clock.
church.
You gonna be up
Right,
on that
right.
clock.
Yeah,
Even if I was nodding off, I was gonna be there though. You were gonna be
right.
there, regardless, right?
Mikey says, "Hey," she says, "so right. The church was a haven for us to be us, to learn from our elders. We learned respect, manners, etiquette, and like you said, confidence." Yeah, it's true. And Chauncey said it paid off. Yeah, because I'm so awesome. No, uh, but my father. There was seven of us. My father had seven kids, the three oldest, the two middle girls, and then the two babies. And obviously, times change, life changed. So Hassan Frederick and I were in church constantly, all the
Right.
time. Monica and Sadika, and when they were little itty bitties, they were in church, but then they stopped going to church because they stopped going to church. And then my baby sisters, I think they may have gone to church 3 or 4 times, in their life. And
Wow.
he would often say how he saw the difference in the choices that we made based on that because, I mean, we were taught to be afraid of our elders and, you know,
Sure.
and in awe of God and afraid to make certain kind of mistakes. Um,
I had so many mothers that people didn't know who my actual mother was, right? Because
That's the fact. Yes. Yes.
mhm.
you
But
had
it
the
was
mother's
funny.
board, you had the mother's board, and everyone had license to put their hands on you.
So you
Okay.
said Jimmy Swaggart, right? You
May I
so
just throw a top? May I just throw a point in there?
Sure.
I'm so lost because I was raised in an Episcopalian church, and our church ran by the kickoff theory.
What's
There
that
was
mean?
no There was no whole bunch of all the stuff y'all talking about. No, we got there at 11. By 12:30 it was over. By 1 o'clock you were home.
Yeah. Well,
That's
there are
it.
definitely
There
people
are
that had
those.
that experience. That I would say that was definitely an experience, and I actually quite think the Episcopalian Church, the way they do it, is beautiful. I've been to those churches before. I like the structure, and I like getting out by 12:30. But
The
but
first time we went to a Baptist church, it scared the hell out of me. I mean, these people are rolling. What is it?
You know, you
Yeah.
said, wait a minute, is it done yet? Done yet? Done yet? No. Oh, I won't be before you long. I won't be before you long. Give me
Well,
a
you
second.
can't be. Well, you can't be before them long. But Sunday school started at 8:30, and
Mhm.
8:30, 9 o'clock, and then you were there until service started at 11, and then you had devotion, and then the service didn't start till 12, and so you might be there till 2. So you were like 8:39 till 2 in the afternoon at a minimum, right?
Absolutely.
And then you might have afternoon service. So you might be
That
able to
would
go
be
home and
us.
eat. You go home and
Mhm.
eat, and then you come back for afternoon
Well,
service.
no, they had the food. They had the food in between. You know,
Or they
And,
had,
gotta
and
yeah,
have
we
fellowship,
had
and
food
fellowship
downstairs.
hall.
We had to,
fellowship hall. Yes, we
yeah,
didn't have fellowship hall.
we had our chicken dinners downstairs
Right,
waiting.
right,
Hmm
Yes,
All,
yes.
all the core folks would eat at the church,
right,
wouldn't leave, and then
right.
we'd have our evening service was start like 5:30, and I might get home by 9, get ready for school the next day.
That was
Karen, Mikey said she that church didn't keep her out the streets, but the fear of all kept me from crossing that line so many times. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you, Jesus. She said.
stayed out the street. So you said you lived in that town where Jimmy Swaggart was. Did you get to meet Jimmy Swaggart?
No, I never got to meet any of those guys I mentioned because I'm too young for that. But I was too young. But we grew up with that knowledge, and then after about 5 or 6, I moved to Illinois, which is where I reside now. And so my dad was a pro athlete, and so he got signed to the Kansas City Chiefs in the 70s. And so we moved to Illinois because that was the closest place my mom could move where she still had family. And so we ended up in this area. So being a Southern girl, she didn't want to move anywhere. She had family. So my dad actually had to commute to the games. Actually had to commute.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Actually had to commute to the games.
I don't blame her. She's like, I want
So
my pants.
right. So I was raised in Bloomington, Illinois, and I reside in Peoria now. I was raised in Bloomington, Illinois, in Mount Pisgah Baptist Church, and it was the largest Black church in this area in Central Illinois. And so we had have and still have a heck of a choir, and so so we grew up and everybody sang. So everybody sang, and whether you sang well or not, you still sang. Right now, not everybody might have got a solo. I'm winking, but everybody had to sing. So.
Do you still sing in the choir? I mean, I know you have your band, but do you still sing in the church choir?
No, I play more now. And usually because I play guitar. Yeah. And so I play more now because I would realize as much as I was playing out with band and music, when I would get there, sometimes the voice wasn't going to be there depending on how much I had sang the night before or how much I had sang through the course of a week. You got 2 or 3 shows in a week, and sometimes that voice doesn't do what you want it to do. So it was easy for me to just sit out and play oftentimes.
I miss it. I've been telling my siblings this, I want to find a church, not because I feel like I need a structure to connect to God, because I have a very close relationship with God all day, every day. But I miss the community.
Sure.
And I miss singing with people. I like singing in groups. I told you this, Dexter. I like singing background. I don't have to be the lead all the time. I really miss it. And I'm not sure how long I'm going to be where I am. I don't know, but I'm looking for a place because I miss that camaraderie, that fun, and that feeling of spirit that you just don't always feel. Sometimes you can capture that feeling when you're singing
Sure.
any kind of music. Um, one of my issues though is some of the professional gospel groups are so professional
Oh, sure.
that sometimes I feel like I've lost that spirit when I hear them live. You know what I mean? Um,
So are you saying that from a connection standpoint? Or are you saying that from um, you like the old school better? Or
no,
just
I don't like the old school better. I love the growth and I love the music. I love it. But sometimes I feel like they pay so much attention to the way it's sounding that they forget about what it's saying.
I get that.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That
So you
that's
don't feel, basically when you're listening, you don't feel the anointing on some of it. Not all of it, but some of it. You're not feeling the anointing flowing
right.
through. You feel
I
like it was just for commercial use only.
commercial use and just I can do these gymnastics vocally. You know what I'm saying? It sometimes it takes away. It gets so technical musically that it gets away from what the song is about and what the song is saying. And I just hope I never lose that. You know?
So let me ask you a question, and I know I'm the interviewee, but let me ask you a question.
No, this a conversation.
Okay, so do you get to the point where um, earlier on when we did vocal acrobatics in church, right? In that situation, right? That wasn't the thing. So when you went to school, depending on the school, granted, and depending on the population of the school and the demographics, right? When I went to predominantly white schools, the vibrato was extra. That was seen as a lack of control, right? But when you came to church, they let it go. You know what I mean? And so you could do that, right? But when you came into a choral situation or a jazz situation, that was seen as a lack of control. So when you became educated or musically educated, right, you had to control your instrument. Whereas now everybody does that, right? If you don't do that, it's almost like you can't sing, right? So if you don't do the vocal acrobatics and the rolls and the runs and the vibrato, it's almost like you can't sing. Where if you went to if you studied classical music, or if you went into classical, that's either that particular part is written in the music or it's not. Right. So you just sing Ave Maria and just start running up and down the scale. you just can't do it.
What you saying? What does it go? Oh,
yeah, exactly.
You have to sing the song as it's written, right? So you have to sing
I don't know. I love it all. You know what I mean? I love the ability to be able to do it all. It's just when I'm in church, I don't want it to be I'm doing it because of the technical sound. I want to do it because that's where I'm led, and that's how I'm going to connect with spirit, and that's how spirit connects with everyone that's listening. So it's a unified experience, not just somebody just singing to show off. You know what I'm saying?
And I don't know. And like I said, I'm not I do it all, so I'm not judging in this way. But I say that it depends on who your influences were. Right. So if you were of a generation where Mahalia Jackson was, where she was your inspiration, or James Cleveland or Rance Allen, or a lot of the earlier pioneers, right? Shirley Caesar, they you sang in their style. But if your influences are Kim Burrell or Leandra Johnson, or you know what I mean, or Jay Moss or the Clark sisters, right? You're trying to emulate them. And so sometimes I don't know if it's showing off, or those are the people that you gravitated towards because that was the music you listened to. So it's hard to tell.
It's not about the vocal ability for me. I'm gonna be clear. It's not about that. It's about what I'm feeling when you're singing. That's what I'm saying. It's what I'm, and that might be my problem, not yours. But
no.
No, I'm not talking about you personally. I'm talking about yours, the person that's singing that I'm watching. Generally, it's about, do I feel spirit in this room? Do I feel it? And sometimes maybe that's my issue and not the singer's issue. But I don't
know if that's just your issue. I'm not a singer, but I feel the same way. I'm always looking for the anointing. I'm waiting to feel that the person ushering me into the spirit is really feeling the spirit and not just saying I'm up here for performance. And I'm not a singer, so I'm looking for the same thing. And because there's somebody that can go up there and they could be singing and you can feel it. You be like, oh, that was it. And it's like you can feel that they were anointed for that particular moment and not just up there for show and fashion. There is a difference. So it's not about being a singer. You're right. Sometimes people are up there just because they want to go to all the levels and go through all the ranges, and they want to go through them, or they may be getting a paycheck from the church, whatever that is.
Some people, I just feel like are doing it. They're different people doing it for different reasons,
Sure.
and everybody's on their own journey. No judgment. Everybody's on their own journey. But for me, when I go to church, or if I'm in the presence, even if it's a jazz singer, R&B, or am I feeling it when they sing a ballad, like your song we're going to play later? Am I going to feel that? Or is it, sometimes I can hear somebody singing that can't really quote unquote sing, but they move me to tears. So I don't care if you have the perfect voice. If you're connecting with spirit and we're connecting together, to me, that's more important. On that note, we're going to come back and we're going to get more into what we were talking about, that whole making sure you love the people that are in your life after the break. PPC radio show. We'll see you after these words.
It's the PPC radio show, hosted by Cynda Williams and co-hosted by Shelly Williams. Music by All Night Long. DJ Joe Storm on the Grown Folks Radio. Grown Folks Radio. WGFB-FM radio.
So are you ready? Yeah.
How it used to be. Something for everyone. 24/7, 365.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Ooh, hey, Facebook. Everybody's watching and commenting. All shook.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Thank you, Mikey, Earl, Chauncey, Drea, Bethy, Boo. All my friends, thank you for joining us. Hi, cousin. Elizabeth is on here. My sister, Mikey, Karen Michael, she's my sister. And
Your sister?
yeah, not my biological sister, but my sister. She's actually my ex-husband's sister biologically, and my baby girl's auntie. So she's my sister.
Aww.
Yeah, and she's been on today 2 times. Hi, Brian Pugsley, who was on last week. And hi, Quill. So yeah, it's a different world today. Hey, Barbara Barbie.
Yeah, you had a song for that. It's a different world. Where we come from.
Yes. It's I don't know. I can't wait to hear how you transition, Dexter, though. How you transition from that, that church boy mentality to that guy out with the girls throwing panties at him.
Yeah. I wonder what your church mother says, since your mother, she getting her. I'm really interested in why your mom is, that, listen, I want my PhD in theology, so she's still into it. What she say? Boy, you need to get back in the church and sing in the church. What she say?
I always say that my mother made God and religion accessible, right? So I didn't have to be perfect to be a part of it, right?
Yes.
And so because of that, she would say, okay, I see where you were going, right? And I see where you're being pulled towards, but you still got to give God his time. And if you do that, I'll leave you alone, basically. You know what I mean? So it was that. And so she was like, I think God, and matter of fact, we talked this morning, which is, we talk almost every day still. So, and as she's going through her journey. And so we were talking about religion and God and choices this morning. And it's still the same message that I got when I was a little boy. It was like, you just have to spend your time serving. Right. And so she recognizes that even though I sing in the world, that's my ministry. That's how I serve. Right. And
yeah, I feel this show is my ministry. I feel like, being able to talk to people about things like this comfortably, and just a conversation with new people every week. And it touches different people different ways. maybe encourages someone, maybe gives someone an idea about how to think a little bit differently to make their lives easier.
Everybody, this is Cynda Williams, and I am the co-host of the Melanated Morning Show and the host of the PPC Radio Show. And you are listening to Grown Folks Radio.
Welcome back, PPC Radio Show. Thank you, all of you have hung on with us on Facebook. Thank you so much. We are here with Shelly Shell Williams, my sister, and Dexter O'Neill, not my literal sister, but my sister of my spirit, and Dexter O'Neill, who is a phenomenal singer, writer, and band leader of the group called Funkyard. And we've been talking about, music and the church and our beginnings and all of that. But tell us, Dexter, where did you go from there? I know you started in the church, but how did you end up going to Funkyard direction? Tell us about that.
Well, I ended up, do you remember, Cynda, we had talent shows, right? Mm-hmm. And so we went through all the talent shows. So those were my introductions to singing outside of the church. Mm-hmm. Right. And so we would do talent shows, and we had community talent shows. And then by the time I was 15, that's when the talent agents and the record label started coming. But the talent shows were at the collegiate level at that point. Mm-hmm. And so we had talent shows in our parks and when our communities just hung together. Right. And every year there'd be a cultural festival that we would have in numerous cities around here. And we'd have 5,000 people in the park. Mm. And so then it was about showing up and showing out, right? So your community's there, the people that go to church, the people that don't go to church, right? And you got to show up and show out. And so at that particular point, I started to step out because I loved R&B. And my father was an avid listener, no musicians in my nuclear family. But he was an avid listener. And so I'd always listen to music with him. So I was so versed in R&B that all my OGs were like, how do you know this music and you're so young? And it was just because I loved hanging out with my father. Mm. And so I made that transition. So to Shelly's point, that Shelly was talking about the women throwing the panties and stuff, right? It was a different response when I started singing Luther or Jeffrey Osborne or Peebo than when I was singing James Cleveland. It was a different response. It was just a different response. And I have to say that I fell in love with that response. I just did. I just loved it. And it was immediate and it seemed authentic and real. And I wanted to see if I could make that response happen every time I stepped on stage.
What was your go-to song? You know how from what I know that everybody has that song that they practice, especially when you go into a talent show. What was your first secular song that you said, I'm going to get this song down pat and I'm going to go on that stage and I'm going to rock it? Which one?
Superstar by Luther Vandross. Okay.
All right. So you were Luther. Yeah. So I imagine is that your voice tone? Did you like the song or was it your voice?
No, it was to what Cynda was kind of alluding to earlier. It was that what comes from the heart reaches the heart sort of situation, right? It's kind of what she was alluding to in the church format. It was like I could feel Luther. I believed him, right? I believed that he was singing from his heart, and I believed that, and I wanted to be able to do that. And so I had a great uncle that was a gospel singer. And he wasn't the most theoretical musically, where that was the path I was going down, right? And so he goes, nephew, if you don't believe it, they won't believe it. Mm-hmm. And so in that, it was about Luther connected with me that way. And same with Peebo Bryson, I believed him. Jeffrey Osborne, I believed him. Elder Barge, I believed him. I could hear him. Howard Hewitt, I could believe him, right? And then when I listened to my gospel artists, it was all about their conviction. Right. So it was about the words of the song, how to convey it. And then if I could make people believe it. So to your point, Shelly and Cynda, it was like, if I could make those people in the world believe what I was saying and they would act that way. And if I could figure out how to bottle that and do it every time, it was almost like a drug to me. So I just loved them. I just loved to get them in a frenzy. I just loved it and enjoyed it. Still do.
Mm-hmm. So you love the panties being thrown. You like, yes. Did that we have morals from the church. Did that make you say, hey, I'm out here in this world now, let's go? Because we hear about the road, what we know, we know, right? Sure, did it make you like church gone, let's go?
Well, no, I was never allowed to leave. I was always allowed. I was allowed to do both, right? So I was allowed to do both, and so, but as long as I think I said it earlier, as long as I gave uh, God His time, my mom and dad never really got on me about anything, and so so they knew that I was, I was going to give my time to the church, and they would do that. So they would police me. So I will say this about the panty thing, Shelly. I will say this: when you start to get when my parents started to get boxes and gifts and stuff sent to the house and it didn't have any postmark on them, you right? Right. So that, and then when my mom would say, I'll open that. And then when you opened that, it was the panties and they were already smelling like perfume and all sort of things. That's when she started to be a little bit more protected.
Chauncey said your alter ego is Dirty Dex.
Dirty Dex. Oh.
Dirty Dex. But girls are a trip, man. Now I've been doing this stuff and I get plenty of men saying things, but they don't send me no box with no drawers. I'm glad about that though.
That's yeah. I think that's just a woman thing. I don't know.
That's a woman thing. I would never think to do something like that. Even if I like somebody, it amazes me that women do stuff like that. It's gonna make a difference.
This started for me at 15, though.
Wow.
Where you started getting these packages. So my mom, even today, is I'm an older man now, but even now, she's still protective because that started so early for me. And so she was like, okay, I got to watch you a little bit more now because this is something different, right? So
yeah. So so you're this sexy guy doing your thing, singing in front of a band, throwing the panties and the boxes and et cetera, and then you have a family, right?
Right. So I'll shorten the story so we can get to that point. So I start to sing. Out of high school, I go into the military, and I go into the military to be able to sing, and because they had recruiting bands in the military, and I turned down a couple scholarships to go because I wanted to do music, and my parents, and they were avid educators. And so they just wanted me to go and, do the regular job thing. And I wanted to do the sing. And so military recruiter comes by, offers me a chance to sing. I'll shorten the story. I get into that I go through my physical. I get to the point where they're going to appoint me a job and they go, oh, you're going to have to pick another job because that's not what you're going to do for us. So it took me 2.5 years to find my way back. So then, we've all seen this where you'll see your military people performing for your presidents and all your different things. And so I found my way into what's called the Stars of Sound, which was I competed for the Stars of Sound of the Tops in Blue, which are Air Force bands. And so I was fortunate enough to tour the world and entertain the troops. And so I started to do that at like 18 and 19 years old. And so by the time I was 19, 20, I was doing that. And I did that. I went on those tours. And then that gave me the bug to want to be an artist. I wanted to do that. And so we traveled, and I think I did 48 of the 50 states, and then I wanted to tour. So that got to me. After that, I got out of the military, and then I started going after the proverbial record deal at that particular point, trying to make that grow. So that's the short version of it. And so to get in there, but on the way, family started. I was such a good musician that I made a couple babies.
That's why I say, when you get out there, you made a couple babies.
I was so good playing. But that song lasted about 9 months. And then the next
That's hilarious.
And so then now you're a musician I'm a musician with a family trying to figure out how to maintain a career, create a career, those sort of things, and still be a father and a husband at the time, right? So I was trying to figure that out. Yeah.
So you made the babies and got married?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, probably. Well, let me say it like this: I made the first one, found out, then I got married, then we made the second. Right.
Okay, so far today, I've heard you mentioned hanging out with your father,
sure,
and the influence of your mother,
Yeah.
and all these things. So, how often do you say thank you to them about this? About how lovely they were with you?
I I I say thank you to them more now as an older man, of course, than I did as a younger man. Because
Mhm.
it's hard when your mother's making you do your lesson when all your friends are standing out in the front yard with a basketball trying to get you to come outside, and she's
Mhm.
yelling at them, "You guys get away from the door!" Right? So it's a little, it's a little, it's a little hard to appreciate it then. But
Mhm.
I always say that it was her vision for me and my grandmother's vision for me to be a musician, and I was just obedient. Right. So that's how I say it, So it wasn't that I recognized that God had given me a gift at that age. I just didn't. It was just something that I was made to do. And then I told you the girls hit me, at 15, 16, then I realized, hey, yo, you guys like this? All right, I'll keep doing it. But then what happened is after that, as you start to get older, then you realize that my mom hit me in my 30s and said, hey, I did all right. You turned out all right. And so
Mhm.
then you start to look at it differently. And I always say that the light bulb went on for me about 30, that it wasn't about how well I performed or how well I sang or played. It was about how well I was able to affect people and make them feel better. Right. Then it stopped being about me. And then when it stopped being about me, then I was able to say thank you a little bit more because I realized that that's what it was supposed to do, as opposed to make me rich or famous or make these girls go do this. It was about, using those abilities to help people.
Mhm.
So now
Yeah.
I say thank you to them all the time because I really appreciate it. And in those moments, and we've all had those things. And I'm sure, Shelly, you had those things where somebody saw your movie or saw your song or saw your poem and said, man, that changed my life, or that really meant a
Mhm.
lot to me, right? So then you realize it's about something bigger than you. And so then when it becomes that, you just have to say thank you to those people that were instrumental in your life. So I say it to them all the time.
But you know how you have those people that say that. Like someone just said before we had this that, oh, I appreciate you giving me being transparent, telling me your story. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. But I believe that I don't say it to my mother. I feel like I'm guilty now that I'm hearing this. I'm like very guilty. I don't tell her thank you, and she really supported my career. I mean, when I say support, when you're struggling, the mama was right there. So I don't think I say it at all. I don't think I can't tell you the last time I did. So I have taken her for granted. I have taken her love and her support for granted. I just assume it's my mom. She does it.
Right.
Mhm.
But she does. This who she is. So yeah, I feel like I'm one of those ones who take people for granted. Take the closest ones, not the regular. I can say thank you to everybody, but the closer ones, you
I
take
think
for
we,
granted.
we we just get caught up in life, and we just assume that they'll always be there, and the people that love us and that are the closest to us, we just always assume. And it takes sometimes just remembering or giving out a reminder like this, thank those people that that you see every single day, that you talk like you talking to Monty, you know. I mean, you guys are like so close. It's hardly like a space between you, but those are the people you forget to say thank you
But I
to
never thank her.
sometimes.
You're right. I just realized she did something for me the other day, and I was like, I didn't thank her. You just made me think. I was like, I did not thank her because she didn't have to do it. It was extra. It wasn't
Right.
like, hey, we're just hanging out. I'm doing something. She came over to do something extra for me in my house, and I was like, I didn't thank her. I she just do that kind of stuff. What she
Hmm.
do?
We say when we get to talking about the songs, and I think it's exactly right because it's like that's where the song came from. Is my what you're saying, Shelly, is that I realized, in the realms of family, that I wasn't doing most of the work. I was out there trying to make money or trying to make a career or trying to support them or whatever my goal was, but I wasn't putting the food on the table for them or putting them in the bed most of the time because I was out trying to make money for them, right? I'll tell you a quick one, Shelly. It'll be a funny one, but you talk about going backwards to your family and your mother supporting you, right? I was a waiter at 16. We had one of these big festivals. My dad there was going to be 5,000, 6,000 people there, and I wanted to go perform in it, but I had a job. So my dad wanted to make me responsible, and he goes, "Oh no, you're not singing. You got a job. You got hours. So you're going to be a waiter." And I'm just sick, right? Because all I want to do is go sing. So he goes, "You're going to go." So being an obedient kid, I go to the job. I get I put my smock on. I'm starting to wait tables, and all of a sudden, maybe an hour and a half in my shift, my dad shows up and he's talking to my manager, and he walks over to me and he goes, "Come on, let's go." And I said, "What?" So literally, he had my tuxedo in the back of the car, and we had a big Mercury Marquis, if y'all remember the big old cars, right? And I got changed, and he drove that car on the lawn to let me out of there like I was in a limo to go perform. But he had to make me be responsible first. Yeah, this was your obligation over here. You made an obligation over to this job, and you're going to do it. But then he came and got me out of it. Now, what's that story worth in the realms of a thank you, in the realms of your life, right? That's a story I can tell, and I get goosebumps when I tell it, because I remember getting in the limo and my clothes being there, and everything being there, me dressing in the back, and then me getting out of the limo and the crowd going crazy, right? I remember the Mercury Marquis that I call in a limo, right? But I remember that, and I remember how I felt in that moment. But he's just dad doing dad, right? To him, and but those are the things that when we tell those stories about our folks, we remember. And when they're gone, those are the things that we remember. And so part of the song and part of me is just to say thank you now and to remember that. And we all talk about giving people their flowers. We always talk about that. We always talk about it, but then we forget to do it. Right. We always say, oh, yeah, got my flowers. Right.
I think it's that whole, gratitude mentality. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can have a really difficult day, a really challenging day. But if you sit down and really think about what you have to be grateful for and allow those thoughts to come in, like my sister, I had a hard time last year financially. I just didn't make any money because all my work went away. And I walk every day, so I tear up shoes. And my little sister Monica, she's like, "Hey, Sin, here's some shoes." Like those are beautiful things, And when I say thank you, it's like not just the words, a brief thank you, but to really sit with yourself and think about the sacrifice, the love, the gifts, sometimes big, sometimes small, and how blessed we are for that.
Sure.
Those things, those little things. My sisters were the middle ones were young, and I was out in LA doing my thing. I was just being a big sister, and every year they'd fly to me and they'd stay with me in the summers or part of the summer, and I'd take them places and do things with them, and it was cool.
Right.
But they right now are like, thank you so much. Thank you. You changed my life. You changed everything, the way I think, because you took me out of where I was in Muncie, Indiana, and you put me in the world, and you showed me the possibilities. And when you're growing up and stuff, you're not thinking about that kind of stuff. You're just that's just what you do. You're a sister, you're a mother, you're a father, you're a brother, you're a lover, you're all these things, and that's what they're supposed to do. My man is supposed to work and help take care of these bills, right? That's what he's supposed to do.
Right.
He doesn't have to do that.
No. And let me say it like this. He doesn't have to do it for you.
No, he doesn't have to do it for me.
Right. He's got to do it, right? Because if he wants to eat himself. Right, exactly. But he doesn't have to do it for you. And so that's where the thank yous come from. And to that, I think we had talked about it in the earlier podcast, right? I was coming home from a studio session, and I'm walking through my house, and my studio was not in the house. And so I was coming into the house, and it was just quiet, and I walked past the kids' room, and everybody's sleeping, everybody's comfortable, looks restful, and then I walk on their look at their mother, and she's comfortable sleeping, and I just sat there, and I just go like, man, I didn't do any of this, right? In the realms of everywhere, and I go, but I provided this situation where they could feel comfortable, but the putting them in the bed, the tucking them in, I wasn't in there. She was hugging a pillow, but it wasn't me, right? So it was like, so I'm sitting there, and I go, I owe her a thank you, and I don't thank you enough. And so I went down to the piano that we had in the house, and I wrote that song, and I woke her up to play it for her. And in that moment, when it was in its roughest stages, she cried because she realized I wasn't saying thank you. She really appreciated it, but she also realized I wasn't saying thank you. And so the funniest part is the more time went on as we were connected, and And she was like, you didn't write that song for me. You wrote it for somebody else. I mean, you go through that, right? Because it's hard to believe that somebody would actually say thank you in real time. It's just hard to believe that because it doesn't happen that often.
Mhm.
And then when you have it, you're like, oh, send a thank. Man, that was nothing. Right?
Mhm.
But then when you think about it, it really was something to do something for somebody that was unexpected, right? Nothing better than the gift that's unexpected.
Right. My aunt Alice, Aunt Sadika, she's on here listening. Hi, Aunt Sadika. Thank you, Aunt Sadika, because she helped me with my daughter in a way that my mother couldn't. My mom has been having health issues for my entire life. So Sophia's grandma on her daddy's side had already passed away. Before I even met her dad, his parents had passed away. And my mom was sick. So she didn't have the typical grandma. She didn't have it. So my Aunt Sadika took the place. She was her great Aunt Sadika. And she came in there and she would come with me when I would shoot a movie. She would come with me so Sophia can come with me too. And she would take care of her, or I'd have to go out of town and she'd come and she'd stay with my daughter so that I could go still do some things in my career, but come back and know my baby was safe with her auntie. You know what I'm saying? Those are huge things. What if I hadn't had her? You know?
Right. And then how much does thank you cost?
Right.
Right? How much does it cost? Right? It's free, right? It's two words, and the sentiment is free, but it's very costly. It has a value. It doesn't cost us anything to give, but it does have value to the receiver, right? So, but it's the one thing that we don't give away, even though it's free, right? It doesn't hurt, and it's just, and I don't know if it's a selfishness in us all, or just a taken for granted. And I don't want to call anything, but I can tell you where it came from me. I was like, as a man, I was like, yo, I'm doing all this other stuff. I'm providing for you, eating, aren't you? Right? You have a place, you have clothes on, or you justify that, but it doesn't. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take the place of a thank you. It just doesn't.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't.
My mom I have an aunt that did something for me very nice. Did something really nice. And I'm busy. So I was in my busy thing. My mom kept saying, did you send a thank you card? No. And I didn't do it, but I waited a couple more weeks. She said, did you send that thank you card yet? I said, no, I didn't. I didn't do it. And she made me feel so bad. I went to the store, went and got the card. And I was like, and then it meant so much. She's like, kept talking about, you young people don't do this anymore. Young people don't do this anymore. And I was like, felt so bad because I did it, but I didn't really do it. It was my mom who was the thoughtful one. I was like, thank you.
It has to be something that's a continual reminder. You have to remind yourself, when you meet people or do like kids today, oftentimes, they get their Christmas gifts, they get the this and the that. And it's you that's saying thank you for them, instead of us encouraging our children to say thank you on their own. And with my daughter, I was like, okay, Aunt Anissa gave you this, Uncle Peter gave you that, Uncle Fred, whoever gave it to you, you need to write them a note and you need to say thank you. And because they didn't have to. They didn't have to give you a thing. I couldn't get their kids anything, that's for sure. So I had this friend Peter. Every year since I had my daughter, he sent a gift for her. And he had only met her once when she was like 11, but he had been sending gifts for her every Christmas. So no matter how rough things were for us, she always had something nice coming from somebody. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool me saying thank you, but it's a whole other thing coming from her and her understanding that this was a true gift that she didn't have to have from somebody.
Sure.
And I think that's something we have to teach our children. We are up to our break, and after the break, we're going to have Jenni Graham, one of our resident therapists, come in and join this conversation. And we're going to let her have her say for a good 10 minutes before we jump in on the conversation, because I know she's going to have some wonderful treasures for us to take away from this PPC radio show. So come back. If you go away, please stick with the PPC radio show. We'll be back with you after these messages.
It's the PPC Radio Show. Hosted by Cynda Williams and co-hosted by Shelly Williams. Music by All Night Long. DJ Joe Storm on the Grown Folks Radio. Grown Folks Radio. WGFB-FM Radio.
So are you ready?
How it used to be. Something for everyone. 24/7, 365.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey, Facebook, we are still here. You ever drink water and then spill it down? It just happened. You just be like, oh man, I missed my lip. But we're still here though. Facebook. You know, embarrassing moments happen. But this has been an interesting conversation. I think I'm gonna go get a bunch of thank you cards and send it out.
It is great. You know, it's we say, young kids say, I appreciate you, bro. Right. And then I have one every once in a while, somebody will say, no, really, for real. Right. Like they, no, for real. No, for real. Right. It's a little different, right? When you, because it comes from that you didn't have to do it. And I would say most things people do for you, they don't have to do. We may feel like it, but don't have to do it.
Nobody has to do it. I think it's the people that's closer, the closest ones, the ones that we don't. But I think we say thank you to people in the industry or things like that a lot because we're like, they really don't. But neither does your parents. Because look how many parents weren't there, or look how many siblings weren't there. So really, they don't have to.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it becomes like just a habit to say thank you to your server, and a habit to say thank you to, people in business. It's just, what you do. But to really mean it, just really come from a place of warmth, and really meaning it. It's people can tell when you really mean it. And it affects them. It feeds them because they don't see, they're not invisible. All the things they've done have been recognized.
Let me say this. I'm gonna get my thank yous out right now. And
when you read my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, before we stop. Go ahead.
Right. Because what Cynda did, and I don't know if the viewership is seeing this, because if they are, I want to say it in front of everybody. Facebook is because, like Cynda, I said somebody this morning, they were like, you're going to be on Cynda's podcast. And I go, yeah. And they're like, oh, how'd that happen? I go, I don't know. Because usually when you meet somebody and you perform with them, it's over with. You don't talk to them anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? You just don't talk to them, no matter what the experience is, right? You don't talk to them. And I go, but Cynda said, Dexter, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I did in turn, right? So we stayed in touch.
This is Tracy Lee, and you already know I gets down with the Get Down, man. Grown Folks Radio all day.
Hi, everybody. This is Cynda Williams, and I am the co-host of the Melanated Morning Show and the host of the PPC Radio Show. And you are listening to Grown Folks Radio.
It's the PPC Radio Show. Hosted by Cynda Williams and co-hosted by Shelly Williams. Music by All Night Long. DJ Joe Storm on the Grown Folks Radio.
Welcome back to the PPC Radio Show. For those of you just joining us, we have been talking about some really awesome things. First we got to meet Dexter O'Neill, Shelly, and I. And Dexter has been sharing with us his journey in music, how he went from the church to the stage. And then we started talking about this whole concept of being grateful for the people that are closest to us. And Dexter was just telling me how awesome I am. So I'm going to say thank you for your thank you. No.
But I am. I was. And I can sort of, it's just that you stayed in touch. And that usually doesn't happen in this industry. It just doesn't. And so I was thankful for that, right? And it wasn't about the opportunity to be on a podcast or anything. It was just thankful. I was like, man, she stayed in touch, and that is so cool. And I was so appreciative of that, because I've had so many, we've all had our brushes with fame, right? We've all had our, whether it be our opportunities or famous people, right? And some of those relationships go away, regardless of what it was. So I just really appreciated that you stayed in touch, and that we've communicated and continue to communicate.
Yep,
So
I recognize good peoples. Jenni, speaking of good people, Jenni Graham is joining us now with her. So what do you think about all this, young lady?
Well, thanks for having me as usual. It's always great to be here and join you all. At first was just y'all had me reminiscing about being in church all week long growing up. And yeah, like twice on Sundays, and there was a lot of activity. There were a lot of things going on. And y'all actually brought up something that I hadn't thought about in a long time, or just hadn't thought about it from the perspective of how it's like influenced my life. How like you had to be involved in something. Like I was also in the choir. It's like singing is not really my thing, but like you were children. All the children were in the choir, And but they had this one thing they did at my church called Youth Expounding on the Word. And so the pastor would give you like the scripture that he was going to preach about, and they would like let a child do like a little like sermonette about like their perspective. And they used to ask me to do that a lot. And it's so interesting because like literally coming on this show and like I'm invited into this conversation to share my perspective on something. And I just never thought about or recognized that connection of how like as a child, like that was encouraged for me. It's specifically in like church when I was going to church. And so that was just an interesting moment that I just had. So thank you all. The irony, right? Thank you all for like just bringing that up for me. That was just an interesting thought to have. And yeah, like thanking people I feel is so important. And I do agree that a lot of times like we're not necessarily always raised with that reminder to say thank you. Or like Shelly, what you were just saying, like thank you cards. Like my grandma was like all about a thank you card. Like I probably still have like old thank you cards just from buying them and knowing that you're supposed to send out the thank yous. But yeah, we do take people for granted a lot of times. And it just made me grateful too to feel like there are people in my life who I do thank them regularly, and also like saying that I appreciate them. And like, I've also noticed there's a subtle difference between saying like, I appreciate that, because people will do things, right? And we'll be like, oh, I appreciate that, or appreciate you for doing that. And it's like, but do we appreciate the person for having the character and the willingness and the ability to show up and do the thing, because it's not necessarily the thing that they did. It's that they cared that much to show up and do those things. So it's about them. So that's actually a little subtle shift that I've been incorporating, instead of just telling someone like, I appreciate that. I've been sharing with people, like, I appreciate you, because it's you who had that thought to do that, touching thing. And also I think Cynda, you touched a little bit on too about like, what does that gratitude look like in action? And I feel like that's something I also like work with people on, is like, recognizing what do you value, and then like, are your values, do you embody those values through action? Like if you say you value a certain thing, like do your behaviors actually show that in the world? Like would people know that that's something you value just by seeing the way that you move through the world? And so like showing people that we appreciate them. So like for me, I know like showing up and like doing little helpful things, running errands for somebody, just when I'm like, I know like little things like being at my grandmother again, I'll be seeing her in a little bit, that's my homegirl. But like being at my grandmom's and like, she like something fell out of the cabinet and I'm like, let's rearrange the cabinets, but like, because she's always been there for me, and I appreciate her, and I tell her that I appreciate her. I tell her, I thank her for the things that she does, but like, I also want to make sure that my behavior shows her that I appreciate that. Or like subtle things, like sometimes we'll show up for someone. I forget who I was talking to about this recently, but like sometimes we'll show up to do something for someone and we had an attitude like we being bothered the whole time. And so it's like there's a misalignment there, you know what I mean? So once again, like really checking, like, is my behavior and my actions, are they really in alignment with like what it is that I'm trying to share, show, or like, the experience that I'm trying to create with somebody. And like all those things are so important, because like we do take things for granted, we take people for granted. And I also find too, the more a lot of times, like from like a relational perspective, the more we engage in those kinds of behaviors with people, the more that opens people up to reciprocate that. You know, and I feel like those are things that I've even done in my family. Like the more that I talk about, you know, because I became a therapist, and like the more I talk about emotions and gratitude and like, you know, experiences and how they've impacted me and what I'm, you know, what I appreciate, the more I hear my family members share those things with me, whether it's about something that I've done that they appreciate, or it's just them sharing about those experiences that they've had in their life. And also, like you said, like having the moment to just pause and reflect on like, you know, how much do I thank people? How much do the people who are close to me who've been there, like how do they know how much I appreciate them? You know, because I think like my mom, I take my mom a lot of times for like she's dealt with me and put up with a lot of stuff. Because y'all talk about like being in the streets. I used to be in these streets. I don't look like it now because I come a long way. You know, it's been a journey. It has been a journey. But I used to be in them streets, man. And like my mom, like I was just talking to my grandma about that earlier. Like my mom, she like was there for me through a lot of stuff. And like, and honestly, even too, just thinking about, you know, sometimes people wait till it's too late, or people like don't know if they have been appreciated. And like my mom's in the hospital right now. She had surgery yesterday, and like I'm grateful that my mom knows that like I appreciate her, and I'm grateful that my behavior, the kind of daughter that I am today. And I do feel like, and Dexter, you mentioned it, I do feel like it comes to like a point too of like just as we mature, we begin to reflect on things and start to understand things differently, and then like we have choices on like how we show up. And then I'll just share a little nugget about gratitude in itself, because like I know gratitude lists has become a really big thing. It kind of got trendy for a little while there, where people are like, oh, let's do this gratitude chain, which are great, because I think when we have like a gratitude list that we share with people, it reminds us like what we're grateful for that maybe we forgot about. And then also it creates like some accountability and connection with other people that we're sharing that gratitude with each other. Writing out gratitude alone actually releases serotonin in your brain. So if you want like a natural feel-good high, like you can get high on writing out a gratitude list, which sounds so corny, but it's true, because it actually does like release serotonin in your brain. And a cool little tip on like a gratitude one I'll share too. A lot of times when we write out a gratitude list, notice, do you have people on that list? A lot of times we'll be like, oh, I'm grateful I got a roof over my head. I'm grateful I got comfortable clothes. I'm grateful for food in the fridge. And sometimes we forget on our gratitude list to like, who are we grateful for? And so you can kind of take that a step further too, is like when you write out a gratitude list, it's like, you know, I'm grateful for this person. And then ask yourself, why? Why are you grateful for that person? And this may be a great exercise too, if like you're watching and you're thinking like, oh, I need to thank more people in my life. If you write a gratitude list of just all the people that you're grateful for, and you start to ask the question why, and you can keep going, there's like depth of layers that you can go into, like why, like I'm grateful for this person for not ever giving up on me. Why? Well, because like there was a time in my life where I was like not very pleasant to be around. Well, why? You know what I mean? And so that actually will give you more information, so that when you go to that person and you thank them, that it's not general. Because I think that's another thing that can happen is it's real general. And so to be able to go to someone and say like I thank you, and I appreciate that like you were there for me through thick and thin and didn't give up on me in times where like I know I was difficult to be around, or like I thank you for like having my back financially when things got tight during that time, because like without that help, like I don't know where I would have been, and that would have taken me so much farther away from my goals. You know, so being specific can also really add a layer too, because that allows the person to really feel seen and appreciated, because it's not general. You're saying like you did this specific thing and this is the impact it had on my life, and like without you I don't know where I'd be. And then my last little nugget on like a shift in gratitude is to do like it's kind of like a gratitude trail. So if you think about an experience in your life that brings you joy, right? And then think about what are the things that like all those moments, you know, that all that divine timing that comes together that gets you to that place. And if you start to think back on like all those little steps that allowed this current reality that you are happy about, if you look at all those little steps, you'll start to see all these people who are a part of getting you to where you are. And a lot of them will be very indirect, but then also that'll give you another opportunity to really think about like, who do you appreciate in your life? And like, are there people that you could reach out to and just be like, hey, you were on my mind. I just want to thank you for that one time where we went out for lunch here, because of that, like that's influenced this in like aspect of my life. And I just wanted to let you know that like you were an important part of this becoming my reality. And so I thank you for that, or I appreciate you for that. So that's like my little nuggets that I share.
I think that's great. I went through I go through phases of things that I decide, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And I went through this a couple years ago, I guess it must have been. I was posting daily different. I would focus on things that are are not necessarily something you think about, who I'm thankful for. And like when our electricity went out, so I did a post about how thankful I am for people that work on those electricity lines, that you don't think about them doing their jobs. And or my trash was really stinking, and I was thinking about those people that collect that trash, and they get rid of it for me, so it's not a part of my, that chaos is gone. And just thinking about all those little things. And so what I started doing that really was a great exercise for me is, like you said, come up with, the why you're thankful, why you're grateful, write that down. And then what I was doing was once a week, I would send an email, not on a phone call, not on a text, but send an email uh, to the person telling them why I was thankful for them. And I felt like that fed me, but it also fed those people, because they were seen, and so that was a really wonderful exercise that um it's kind of like, I think it's good to fast or cleanse a couple times a year. I think it's good to have phases where you reach out to people like that too.
I feel like even after saying all that too, and I'm realizing like I basically like thank my mom, thank my grandma. I gotta thank my dad too, and I'm specifically saying that like thankful for this black man in my life, because I also feel like black men don't often get that thank you. Dads don't often get those thank yous in the same way. So even though my dad will never see this because he's not on Facebook, I have to like literally show him this. But but I'm grateful for like my dad in my life who's, like, showed me not to accept any BS from guys, and has shown me how to like protect myself, and has shown me like, how a man can show up in your life and be a loving person. So shout out to the black dads out there and fathers, because I do feel like that's a narrative that we don't often talk about or acknowledge. So
Yeah. Chauncey said great advice, and Javette said she wishes your mom a speedy recovery, as do
thank
I.
you.
And they've all said great points. So Dexter, where from here? What do you thank your children ever for anything?
No, I tell them they should thank me. I think that's but I am appreciative of them helping. But I've had moments where my kids played college basketball or play college basketball, and I've told them, I thank you for being good students, or thank you for listening, or thank you for paying attention, or thank you for making the road easy on me and your mother, right? So or in those ways, because they could have chose to just go to college, and we were lucky that we didn't have to pay for college, right? Because they went on scholarship. And so that those are the thank yous, right? Because those are drains on the family, right? It's how often we try to inspire our kids to do X, Y, or Z, and then we don't tell them why we want them to do it this way, right? Hey, I want you to go to college, right? But then when the money comes, then it's another thing, right? But my dad, being an educator, said, everybody starts with an A. All you can do is mess it up, right? So why can't we just maintain these A's, and so we can get free money that's out there, so that we don't become a drain on the family? How about you do that for us? We'll do this for you. How about you do that for us? And so I think if you give them a purpose, one of my favorite movies was about Pistol Pete Maravich, which was a basketball player, and his dad sat him down and said, we don't have the money to send you to college, but if you work real hard, you can get there and you can get a scholarship, right? Part of that, the reason I love that story is because he gave the kid a purpose, right? Help us. We'll help you. You help us, right? And I think I don't think there's anything wrong with giving your children that charge, Cynda. I just don't think so. Hey, we're gonna support you, and then we're gonna do this, but here's what we want in return. And it's not for our benefit that we get it necessarily. It's your benefit, it's your education, right? But it's also, it makes it easier on the family. So I do thank them for that. So.
I think it's interesting that my father used to give us money if we did well. Every certain amount of A's we would get paid, and I wasn't about that. I was like, I ain't paying you for doing what you're supposed to do. That was just me. I didn't take that. I didn't take that from my dad, but I did say, her friends were out working, and I was like, your job is to keep doing well in school. That is your job. That is on you, for you. and that will ultimately help us also to take it seriously what you're doing. All the choices that you're making will affect your life. And so, this is your job to do well, to make sure your homework is finished, to make sure you do your chores. I ain't paying you for doing no chores. You live in this house. You live here now. If I ask you to do something extra, like, can you please wash my car today and clean out the inside? That's extra. That's my job. So I'm going to pay you for that. But stuff, keeping your room clean, washing your clothes once you're able, all that stuff. I'm like, that's your job. That's not mine. But I have, especially recently, really been thankful to my daughter. My daughter has natural tendencies towards nurturing also. Being a therapist, I think she could probably help a lot of people, young people, but she's shy, so she's gonna have to find her voice if she ever goes that direction. But she's a wonderful listener. So I don't try to dump everything on my daughter, but the things we do talk about, just life, just what's happening in politics, or this circumstance that happened. Not everybody gives a crap about what you think about that stuff, So my daughter and I will be talking about stuff, or I'll talk to her and I'll vent and I say, this drove me crazy because, and she listens and doesn't judge and doesn't say, Mom, you're boring me. And I thank her for that.
Cynda, you bring up a really important, point of like, do we thank children? Like, do we show them that they're valuable? And like both of you were talking about like grown children, but I think that's also really important. I don't currently work with little ones, but I have worked with children as young as 2. And like, that's so important for them at that early age to understand that like their contributions are valuable and that they're seen. Because I think sometimes we have this expectation that when they get older, they should just know that. But it's like, well, how do we help to cultivate that for them when they're little? And also too, like, let's keep it real. Like, children can teach us a lot. Like, you want to learn a lot about the world, like talk to some 6-year-olds. Like they're a matter of fact. They know what they want. They have good boundaries. They know how to say no. They're able to say yes to what they enjoy. Like, they're great friends. They want to share with everybody, and they think everybody deserves an opportunity and a turn. Like, so I think, sometimes we overlook like how much we as adults we can learn from children. And so like when they remind us of those things, it's important for them to hear like, oh, thank you.
Hey, Jenny, I have a quick story towards that point. When my youngest was in, we had this thing that we said, don't embarrass the family, right? It was a takeoff of remember who you are and whose you are. Right, right, and my mom would say, that's my last name, not yours, so don't embarrass it, right? That sort of thing. And so I turned that into don't embarrass the family, right? So we're at a party, a birthday party, and one of the kids that's not mine goes and he just outright cusses. And so my son goes, Jacob embarrassed the family.
Not okay. That wasn't okay.
That wasn't okay what he did, right? And so I looked at him and I go, thank you for not embarrassing the family. I appreciate it.
Right? Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think you're right. We do have to tell them thank you. So we appreciate the little things that they do. Even controlling themselves. We appreciate you that.
One of the biggest lessons I had in life, my daughter taught me when she was about 7. I mean, this is probably one of the most monumental, eye-opening thoughts that changed my life completely, more than church, more than my readings, more than anything, more than my pastors. My daughter said one thing to me. I was trying to take her to a movie after we finished with school. We got through school because I was homeschooling at the time. We got through school quickly, and we were running to catch the bus because in Singapore, it didn't make sense to have a car. So we take mass transportation, we rushed to the bus, and we missed the bus. And I was like irritated. I was like, our bus left us. We're going to miss our movie. We're going to miss our movie. And my daughter looked up at me. She's like, no, we aren't. And I said, what do you mean, honey? She said, it wasn't our bus because we didn't catch it. And it wasn't our movie because we're not going to be there. The next movie's ours and the next bus is ours. And it was like, boom, give me one of those booms, DJ Kid Disco. It was like so mind blowing. It changed my mind about so many things in life.
Wow.
And exactly.
It's deep.
It was deep. It totally changed my perception about accepting things as they come because that's the perfect timing, and not getting caught up in the irritation of what I want to happen, because sometimes what I want to happen isn't what's best in the long run. Who knows what might have happened on that earlier bus, or there's so many things we don't know. And so, I mean, I thanked her right in the moment. I was like, thank you so much. You really opened my mind to something. And I think God uses people, dogs, cats, animals, life, a rock. He could use a rock to teach us something. So
How old was she at that time?
she was 7.
Here we go. Yeah, 6, 7. They know stuff.
They know stuff.
They know a lot of stuff. Look at that. Wow, that is
that's so powerful and so true though. Like so many layers to that.
It is. I mean, you think I had to think about it in my head. I was like, there's a lot of layers that.
Right? Yeah.
We're gonna all live on that one.
Yeah. Also, just even like what's meant for us is meant for us. It's not in our timing. Who's meant for us is going to be around us. Who's supposed to be there will be there. Who's not supposed to be there won't be there. Like, man.
And we just got to be like, yep, that's all right. It wasn't supposed to. What's next? What's next, God? Let's go. What's next? I'm ready.
Yeah, and to be excited about it, right? To be excited about the adventure of not knowing what in the world is coming. That's been hard for me. I'm such a control freak. It has really been a journey for me to just surrender to and realize that what's mine will come to me when it's supposed to come to me. And that just confirmed it for me from the mouth of a child. And it's something I always go back to. Whenever I start to get mad, I'm like, okay, that wasn't mine. That wasn't mine.
That's good. We had a hashtag for the day that wasn't mine.
Right?
That wasn't mine.
I should drop that in the comments.
That wasn't mine.
Chauncey says, it's amazing what our kids teach us. Then it brings us joy knowing that they get it, the things they teach us and vice versa. And Karen says, I believe that totally. Denise says, amen. I just want to make sure you guys know that I am watching your comments. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.
We appreciate what you did, and we appreciate you. Look, you just told me something, Jenni.
Oh, I connected to that longer because I saw the effect that it had on people, and in my thought process, when instead of saying thank you for that, I say I appreciate you. I appreciate you. That affects people in a positive way because, like I said, again, it goes back to being seen, and because so many people feel like they're not seen.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who give all the time, and like in relationships, like you get accustomed to that. Like when you know a person who's always giving, like you're used to that. And there's people out here who are constantly giving and they are never being thanked, or there's no one who's saying that you appreciate that they're like what they do is appreciated. So like to be that person that can say that to somebody who may not get that, who may not have anybody who's recognizing the value of what they bring into spaces, like, that can be a game changer for somebody.
Yeah, oftentimes
go on.
Sorry. I was just saying, oftentimes we celebrate the gift and not the giver.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's something different to do that, right? It's Cynda, your man frame buys you a new car, and you go, "Hey, Jenni, look at my new car."
Yeah.
So we don't say, "Look at what my man just gave me," right? We leave that part out, right? Or vice versa, right? Or we don't, or however you tell the story, right? We don't celebrate the giver in our story. We just celebrate the gift.
Yeah,
And
like
so part
women
of that
with
is
their
saying thank you.
ring. Look at my ring. Look at my
Right,
ring.
This is
right,
like the
right,
thing versus the relationship or the person.
right.
And
Like,
Dexter, I
listen,
love
get
what you
the
said
ring.
today.
That means somebody love me enough to marry me. Yes. I'm engaged. But get that, you love me? He love me, y'all. He love me.
But
Where he
but
at?
Dexter, I love that you said man friend too, because I'm also sitting here thinking about my man friend that we're like building, and like in this process of building, like we have been acknowledging and telling each other how much we appreciate each other and what we appreciate each other for, because we both have had experiences where we show up and we give in certain ways and it hasn't always been reciprocated. And so it's so wonderful to be connecting and building with somebody who's had those experiences, and that we're both actively being like, I appreciate you, like just for being you, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's another thing too, is to tell somebody that we appreciate them, not because of something they've done specifically in the moment,
and I know I'm on this line with three strong women, so bear with me. As a man, I'm going to tell you, there's a difference between, hey girl, look at my ring, Shelly, and hey, look at what my man got me.
Got you. That's what I'm gonna say.
I'm telling you, it's a different feeling for us as men when that comes out, because that's what we tell our male friends. We don't tell them, hey man, I got my girl a car. Man, my girl, man, she told everybody I gave her that car. That's what or that rock, or that she told everybody I was taking her out to dinner. That's what we share. We don't share that we went out to dinner, that we took you to dinner. We share how you made us feel about that.
That's how you
Yeah.
receive love that way. That's a big one for me.
You know, like you said, thank you for that. Listen.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I'm holding on to that. I'm like, ooh, receive nugget. Thank you.
Right. That's what we share with our friends. We're like, man, she told everybody because that's what makes us feel valued. Right. It makes us feel valued to do that. Right. We're happy that we can buy you something that you're excited, but how you receive that is what we end up sharing.
I know, like with William Lee, I noticed this. Since we've been seeing each other, I've been out and about quite a bit, and he'll come with me, especially before COVID. He'll come with me to shows, or he'll come with me, and I recognized how it affected him when I always made sure everybody knew who he was. This is my man. This is William Lee, and I talk about him. You know what I mean? Or I celebrate him. Or, when I'm introducing my sister, I talk about her. I celebrate her when I take them with me. It's not like they're in my shadow chasing after me. And they're the star when they come with me, because everybody I meet, I'm going to introduce to them. And that affects people in such an amazing way, because they're like, especially in a person, say in your position, Dexter, or my position, where we're the focus of attention sometimes. Sure. And those that support us and love us are in the background, but we wouldn't be here without them. It's like, that's why whenever I get in a position and I can celebrate my family, my friends, those people that support me and love me, I'm their biggest cheerleader, because they've been my biggest cheerleader, and I couldn't have been here without them. And so for your man or your woman, introducing them to others with pride, and this is my guy, and he's an amazing person, and blah blah blah, whatever, and then let them have a conversation. It just emboldens them and encourages them and makes them understand that you know who they are.
Right, your chest just goes out a little bit bigger. It's every man. Our thing is, we want to be proud to be with you. We want to be proud of you, and we want to be proud to be a part of your life, right? And anything you do that just makes our chest stick out bigger, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing, is that we say things oftentimes like, you don't own me, or you don't care to tell me what, but we want to belong to somebody at that level. Everybody does, both sides do, So you have to remember to say thank you and encourage in that way. I was thinking about Jenni in the realms of her father and things that she was talking about and saying thank you and all those sort of things. Cynda, tied to sometimes being the center of attention, I quote my mom before every show. Mm-hmm. And my mom says, and I say this to my audience, I quote my mom before every show. And I say that my mom says that every floor is a dance floor. All you got to do is make some room. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And then I make the audience say that. I go, so if every floor is a dance floor, you guys say you make some room, right? Right. Room. You make some
We
room,
do it
right?
again.
So,
We didn't
so
do that well for that one. Should we do it again?
let's do it
We
again.
try
And
it
so if
again.
every floor is a dance floor, all you got to do is what?
Make some
Make some
room.
room.
Make some room, make some room, right? Right. And so that comes from, you remember when we'd have parties in the house, and so we'd have house parties and stuff like that. It wasn't about where you were, it wasn't about being in a club with everybody, it was about partying right exactly where you were. Well, how that ties to the thank you is when my mom comes to shows, or when people come to my shows and I quote my mom, they know that saying before they know me. And so I say, how many is the first time you guys have ever seen me perform? And I say, well, there's what you've got to learn. And so all the people that have seen me before, they say what you guys say. They go, make some room. And it makes them feel a part, right? But for my mother, it's giving honor to her because to let her know that she's important in my life in front of the world. And I give her credit for, if it was her, and I said it earlier in the interview, I wouldn't play at all if it wasn't her. Right. You know what I mean? So her and my grandmother and their vision of me. So it's my way of, saying thank you in front of everybody every time, never forgetting when I step on stage.
Yeah, that's what Carol Burnett used to like pull on her ear. Y'all remember that? That was for
Yeah.
her grandmother.
Yeah.
That was her gift to her. I know DJ Kid Disco. I was so impressed with him when we first started working together because he always talked about his wife. Every time we come on the show, he would say, "I just want to give a shout out to my beautiful wife, and she's so supportive, and I love her so much." And I just love that about him because people don't do that all the time. They don't. When they're the quote unquote star, they don't talk about the people that are quietly in the background supporting them. And I loved hearing that. And I was like, I can't wait to meet her because, she tells me how wonderful she is, and
so you have that thought, like, oh, she's what she is. I'm waiting for a man that says, allow me to say them. I've always had to hide the people. He's like, he's with me, but he's on the side because he doesn't want people to know she's with Shelly. I don't know. I've had to hide them. Like, so I would, the next person, he better be one that want to be claimed, because they don't like the limelight. A lot of people don't like the limelight. So they were like, no, I'm gonna just be back here. And I'll be like, I feel like I'm by myself. I might as well be by myself, right? So that next one.
Yeah, that's so important, I think, like in relationships, especially those romantic partnerships, like to be with somebody who like you celebrate together, like you want to see each other win and like you're supportive of that, and to be able to like honor each other in that way, because like Shelly, I agree with you. Like I've had those experiences too, where they don't want to be a part of whatever I'm doing in the ways, and for me it's like, but I want to celebrate you. I want you to celebrate with me. Like I want us to be like in this together, and like, and I'll be there for you and show up for you in any way. So I feel you on that. And keep the faith, girl. Keep the faith, because like this, my man friend, like we're early on, but like it's been good. It's been good. So keep the faith.
Shantae's got a man. Y'all got a man.
But I was ready to just get a dog, y'all. I was like, you know what? I'm not dating. I don't have the time. My tolerance level for the BS was so low. I'm like, I'm about to just like not date, focus on my business. I'm gonna get a dog soon. That's where I was, and then we randomly connected, and it was
that's why I think that's how it happens when you like submit to life as it is and just be happy where you are. That's when that kind of stuff shows up, at least that seemed to be my experience. And Paula says, hey girl, share the light with your sweetie. And Javette says, make some room, love it. Hey, Tamara, my girl, my cuz. She said, yes, cousin. So we are getting to the point now where we're getting ready to go into our music mix. And I think we're going to try to play some of Dexter's wonderful song, which kind of was what brought about this theme. My Love, My Family. Beautiful song. But before we actually do that, everybody, please, Dexter, first you tell us how we are able to purchase your music, find out, get on your list so we know when you're performing. Give us the information.
Sure. I have a website. It's dexteroneil.com. I'm on Facebook under Dexter O'Neil and Dexter O'Neill in the Funkyard. O'Neill is spelled Oneal. I'm on all the streaming outlets, iTunes, Amazon, Prime, Spotify. So all of the streaming outlets, so you can find me there if you're interested in that. And so as the Funkyard grows, the Funkyard is more of a dance sort of situation. But I've gone through a lot of different periods, much like Cynda's talking about her career. I've done jazz, I've done smooth jazz, I've done all those sort of things. And so you'll see all those things out there. And I've produced for a lot of people, but that's a way to find me. Instagram, same way as Dexter O'Neil. And you can find me in those ways. And I look forward to hearing from you. And I hope I have some new Facebook friends and all those guys after these sort of things. So feel free to join in and follow along.
Yeah,
I could be in a town. I could be in a town near you. Cynda, we're talking about coming. I'm coming to Indy. I'm working on it right now. So I'm trying to get there to see you.
Hopefully when he comes to Indy, I can sit in on a couple of songs. So that'll be a lot of fun. Jenni, tell us how we can contact you or what you need us to know.
Yes. So actually, I am a life empowerment coach, and I utilize my skill set as a licensed art therapist in the work that I do to help people to really tap into subconscious thoughts, feelings, experiences, and whatnot. And I work particularly with change agents who have marginalized racial and/or gender identities to go from surviving to thriving in all areas of life. So you can check out my website at www.traumafreeuniversity.com. That's my organization, Trauma Free U. I'm also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Trauma Free U. So just TRAUMAFREE and the letter U. And also real quick, I have an event coming up if you want to join me in a nice intimate space. I'm offering what's called my 90-minute breakthrough. And so this is an opportunity where you can bring in a stressor that you have that's going on in your life. And I'm going to teach you some practical and concrete ways to externalize and let go of that stress, understand your emotional needs, and to be able to understand like how can you internalize a sense of calm. And we're going to do so using like art materials and imagery. You don't need to be an artist, so don't worry about that. Just come with an open mind. And yes, that's my 90-minute breakthrough coming up on March 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can actually find that on Eventbrite, but if you go to any of my socials, you'll see that there too.
Awesome. That sounds like a beautiful experience. Shelly, you have something you want to share?
Yes, it's crazy that we're doing something the same day. I said that. I'm so sorry, but I'm actually doing my first workshop on Monday the 15th at 7:30 p.m. talking about the 5 ways you can repurpose your live stream, your radio show, your podcast, the 5 effective ways you can do that. And it's my very own workshop. And you got to pay for it. This is the time you have to pay for this one because this is going to start the series of my courses and things like that. So Monday, 7:30 p.m., you can go to Instagram at Shelly Shell Williams, or you can go to Eventbrite and you can go find repurposed content. So that's on Eventbrite, or definitely go to Shelly Shell Williams. But yes, you have to pay for it this time. I am no longer, I know I'll always give information for free, but this one is going to be the course at beginning of my course creation. So that's Monday. Sorry we're doing it at the same time. I would have been there for you. I would have.
That sounds good. I'm like, I want to go to that.
Yeah. So I get to finally teach what I've been learning throughout COVID. COVID has been very, very good, meaning I've learned a lot. I've taken a lot of classes, courses, and things like that. And now, finally, I get to release it on the walls, you know?
And you should be charging. We can't give away everything for free. We need to.
I've been doing it for a long time, but it gives me a lot of case studies. It gives me a lot of people who say thank you. So they say thank you. So I appreciate them. And I want to say thank you to Monica, my sister, Monica. If anybody has been taken for granted, it is her. I have taken you for granted on so many occasions. You cook my food. You help me out. You travel with me. So thank you to my sister, Monica. I love you. I appreciate you. Not what you do, but you. That's it.
All right. Okay. So I just want to remind everybody that my PPC podcast, which introduces my guests every week, this week I'm going to have Lavelle Smith Hall, aka Lish. She is an amazing woman, CEO of Mom Logics, and her focus is helping mothers and spouses in family relationships. She's a life coach, and I'm very excited to have her on the podcast. Drops at noon, Friday Eastern, on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or where most podcasts are found. And next week on the PPC radio show, we'll have Lish or Lavelle, and Craig will be coming on, and he'll be doing that first half an hour talking about some financial thing we need to learn from him. So everybody that's listening in, make sure you join us for something. There's no reason to be bored. There's no reason to not learn something. There's always something available these days. DJ Kid Disco, before the music, do you have anything you want to share?
Just won't you be with the random black guy tomorrow?
I will be with the random black guy tomorrow on the Melanated Morning Show. Is that how? Yeah. Tomorrow morning, 10 to 12 Eastern. We are talking about George Floyd's the trial against Chauvin, and we're talking about politics, and we're talking about things that make us laugh. We're talking about slang, except for this time we're talking about white folk slang, so it should be funny.
Jeepers.
So.
Oh.
Really, dude? Oh my gosh, really?
So rad.
For sure.
Next Tuesday on the Tuesday Night Spotlight, we got Nokia Dillard. That's the 16th, March the 16th at 7 p.m. And the 23rd, we got, let me clear my throat.
DJ Cool is in the house and we ready to roll. Come on.
Come on.
And speaking of thank you, I want to thank Carmen for allowing me to do it because that's actually her birthday. But
oh, happy birthday, Carmen!
She says I can do it as long as she gets to meet DJ Cool. So.
All right.
Hey.
Okay. Well, Facebook, if we lose you, we're sorry, but we're going to start, I think, with our song from Dexter O'Neil, My Love, My Family. Then we're going to have our music mix. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We love you. Please come back and support and spread the word. Share. Love you all.
Everyone's fast asleep but me. As I walk the hallway, in safety and security, with sweet dreams on the way, as I come upon our room and see you sleeping with such peace, I can't help for wondering if you're dreaming about me. I don't know if I thank you enough. I love the things you are to me. You're my lover, my wife, my family. Oh, sleep on, queen of mine. You'll probably wake me in the morning, offering to serve me something hot. Oh, like so many times before. Today I'll say, give me you, give me you. Please lay back down. Got a place for you right here. For your touch is all I need. That's all I need. And I need you. I need it right now, right now. I don't know if I thank you enough. Oh, I love the things you are to me. You're my lover, my wife, my family.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Mix, 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 mix.
Music by Dexter O'Neil.